Andrew Miller is the CEO of CAPA Consulting and a former chief operating officer at Air New Zealand. He currently provides strategic advice to boards of directors at airlines, and also standing by somebody who is a very, very frequent flyer on JAL, of course, my partner in crime, Mike Firn. Andrew, Bernie, first of all, here in Hong Kong, thank you so much for joining us. Would the Japanese equivalent of Chapter 11 do the trick in the saga of JAL?
Well, I don't think they've got any other option, Bernie. You know, things have gone too far. The level of restructuring that the company has attempted over the last 5 years has not been significant, and it hasn't delivered any improvement in performance. They've run out of money, and what else can they do? It's the only option. What will be interesting is what they do in terms of the restructuring over the next 2 to 3 years to return the business to a more profitable position.
Andrew, how did JAL get into these dire straits? Was it bad decision after bad decision? Were they completely clueless when it came to rationalizing their route structure? Where exactly is the smoking gun in this story?
Well, the smoking gun over a long period of time is the growing sort of legacy costs that the business have had. There has been a sort of high degree of protection in the Japanese market. They haven't experienced a lot of the new forces in aviation, like low-cost domestic operations and the emergence of low-cost international operations like AirAsia X and Jetstar from Qantas. These companies have a far lower cost of production, and JAL felt somewhat protected in their market position, and these days have gone. You know, 5 years ago, JAL had 70% of its revenue from overseas route network and 30% domestically, and now it's about 50-50. That's not a good thing. JAL hasn't been able to make enough money and enough profit from its international operations to keep the business solvent. A very good example of that, for instance, would be that JAL has flight codes to New Zealand, but they haven't operated the JAL aircraft to New Zealand in the last 10 years. They basically buy seats off Air New Zealand to sell in the Japanese market, and they don't operate there. And the reason why they've got to do that is the fact that the costs of production of JAL are far higher than Air New Zealand, and they can't make any money out of that market. So what they do is actually market the seats on their code-share partners. And that's what JAL have been doing over the last 5 years, and it doesn't work anymore.
Andrew, it's Mike in Tokyo. It seems that the US carriers are very interested in JAL. You've got American and Delta both offering more than $1 million to take a stake in JAL. What are the advantages, and should JAL choose either of them, neither of them?
Well, first of all, the two airlines that you mentioned are not banks. Do they provide enough significant IP or strategic turnaround experience to help JAL through their current sort of situation? If you take the financial situation away, they're there because the Japanese market is still significantly large. It's a very large market. JAL is still a very large airline by turnover standards, and both airlines hope to get a foothold for their brands in that very, very large market. They haven't been too open in terms of what they propose to do as part and parcel of that sort of equity position, but I believe the government and indeed some of the members of the JAL management don't want that to happen. Because they don't offer any significant sort of restructuring experience. A lot of the American airlines are protected by Chapter 11, as you know, and some of the more efficient carriers, like Southwest Airlines, are actually affected by that. And you could say, to be very, very harsh, that American and Delta don't have that turnaround experience that JAL actually needs. A good example of that would be the fact that around the world, more and more airlines are selling directly to the customers through the internet and bypassing a lot of the travel agents and wholesalers in the market. JAL hasn't actually felt that significant pressure on their business, and they haven't restructured. They still own JAL Tours and JALPAC, and they own these organizations, and it's very difficult to restructure and sell bypassing these subsidiary companies, and therefore it's a very sort of complex situation that they need to get round.
It seems like Haruka Nishimatsu, the president and CEO, is going to go, and his board is going to go. There's been talk of the founder of Kyocera taking the role. Now, Kyocera makes electronic components. Do you think that this is the right person to head JAL? Do you think we should be looking overseas for someone with airline experience? Who do you think has the skills to turn JAL around?
Well, you're dealing with the culture of the Japanese commerce here. And I would say that nobody within JAL who has had a long experience within the business is experienced enough to lead the business into a new age sort of formula. Appointing a Japanese business person externally from JAL is a sensible idea. I don't think that finding a foreigner from some of the more developed or more efficient markets to bring them in as president of JAL is actually going to work, or would indeed be acceptable by the Japanese people, but would wait and see. I think it's a good idea. It's a good idea getting an outsider.
Andrew, appreciate your time, and we'll let you get back on track with your busy day. Andrew Miller joining us from CAPA, former CEO at Air New Zealand.